Welcome to Vineyard Boise. It's our vision to make the invisible God visible wherever He places us. We come together on Sundays to worship and fellowship corporately. But we know that church isn't just about Sunday. It's about a lifelong, day-to-day following of Christ with other believers. We invite you to join us, just as you are. If you'd like to support our ministry, visit vineyardboise.org and click the Give Online button.
I came across what I think is an excellent definition for what a sermon by me looks like. A sermon by Mike, an inchoate, heterogeneous conglomerate that retains the indestructible bones of innumerable tries at orderly communication. That's just beautiful. It has so many beautiful words in it. I don't know if I've ever been able to say inchoate, which is really close to incoherent. But I will be working on coherency. Amber had the gall beforehand to pray, that would be Pastor Amber Gunstream, to pray, God, clarify Mike's thoughts. Yes, well, good luck with that. Good luck. But here we go. There was a 14th century poet in Persia. We know him as Hafiz. I think his full name, Khawaja Shams Din Muhammad Hafiz-e Shirazi. Okay. Love to do his baby dedication. He said this, one of his poems. I had a legitimate excuse for not going to the mosque and temple to pray. It was because love is so wild in me, I might break the fragile glass cage of which all religions are made. And so God, break this fragile glass cage. Let our love for you and for one another be so wild that it shatters all religion beyond repair until kingdom come and we and this world are transformed. And use the inchoate words of this sermon to help do it in some small measure. God, you spoke through an ass, and so do it again now. Just a wee bit. Through Christ. Amen. Okay. Can we start with a quiz? Say yes. Yes. Yeah, thank you. Can somebody say, oh, please do? Oh, thank you. Gosh, you guys are great. You're amazing. Oh, stop it. Stop it, Jill. You're getting sassy. Okay. All right, so I'm going to call this, Who Are Those Guys? Okay, who are those guys? Just see if you can identify. I'd like some audience participation. I want you to identify who these guys are. Okay, I've got 12, 13 slides or so. So, we'll get that started. So, here we go. Who are these guys? Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, 1969, I believe. Okay, very good. Okay, next one. Starsky and Hutch, thank you. Yes, Starsky and Hutch. Okay, these guys. Who are these guys? Yeah, Dragnet. Now you get bonus points. We know Joe Friday, Jack Webb, right? Harry Morgan, he was a later partner, but anybody know his name? Bill Gannon. I had to look it up too. Who are these guys? Sherlock. It's my preferred Sherlock. This is kind of where I go. Robert Downey Jr., all due respect, but... who are these gals? Yeah, Cagney and Lacey, right? Tyne Daly, Sharon Glass, groundbreaking 70s. Who are these guys? Yeah, Hawkeye, Trapper John, or if you prefer, we've got Hawkeye and B.J. Honeycutt. Yeah, okay. Who are these guys? Norm and Cliff, yes. All right. Who are these gals? Thelma and Louise. Never saw it, but it is epic, and an epic ending. I didn't. I know, I need to. Who are these gals? Well, that's Mary Tyler Moore and Rhoda Morgenstern. That's who that is. Who are these guys? Sam and Frodo. Okay, very good. Yeah. Don't play games with me. It's Sam and Frodo. Who are these guys? Go. Advance. There we go. Yes, Napoleon Bonaparte. Yes. All right, so I'm kind of a history. Anyway, but we're showing the movie, Napoleon Dynamite, Pedro. Okay, and one last one. Okay, this is the geek nerd measure here. This would be the 11th Doctor Who, and his companion, Amy Pond. See who that is. You didn't do badly. Okay, not too badly. What do all these have in common? They are companions. They are friends. Okay, and who are these guys? Go to back. Yeah, one more. Who are these guys? They're a cartoon rendering of real-life friends, which I believe on the right would be the depiction of David, and on the left, depiction of Jonathan. David and Jonathan. David and Jonathan. And here you can clearly see they've got bows. They're headed out to the field to shoot arrows. And may I just say this just up front, that them going out into the field to shoot arrows has no sexual overtones whatsoever. We do tend to sexualize this. I would just say to my gay brothers and sisters, you don't need to sexualize the friendship here in order to make your argument. I'm just going to have some straight talk about friendship, just telegraph the title to you. You don't need to show it yet. And a couple of facts about friendship, and then just some truths that I just jotted down this week. This is be like a pre-fact. Non-sexualized friendship is possible. Men with men, women with women, and men with women. Rebuke an older man harshly. Don't rebuke an older man harshly. Gosh, I'm glad I got that right. Don't rebuke an older man harshly, Paul says, but encourage him as if he were your father. Treat younger men as brothers, older women as mothers, and younger women as sisters, with absolute purity. We're meant to model this, which means we can actually have friendships with each other without it getting wonky. Okay? Let's model that. Now, I would say, the whole men with women thing, and I want to get in a whole sermon here right off the bat, but just to make the point, men and women, yes, that can be a bit dicey. And that's not because of the women, it's usually because the men haven't learned how to relate to women without sexualizing the thing. We need to learn to embrace women as sisters with absolute purity. Treat every woman as if she were your sister, except the one you marry. You get special privileges with her. But treat them as sisters. Now, if you don't know how to treat a sister without getting wonky, then stay away from women until you learn those boundaries. Where we can have friendships that are non-sexualized and that have holy touch. Holy. I would spell that both ways, actually. Holy touch. David and Jonathan had a friendship that has come down in history as kind of a model of friendship of two men that, because of the initiative of one, who is actually not the hero of our story, he's kind of a sub-story, and that would be Jonathan. Jonathan took initiative. It's actually the higher to the lower. David is the shepherd boy from Bethlehem who plays a mean guitar, actually a soothing guitar. It was ambient. And it soothed his father, and Jonathan sees. And then Jonathan sees another side of David altogether when all of a sudden David is there as an errand boy for his dad, who, when Samuel the prophet came, couldn't remember that he actually had a son named David. Do you think David has daddy issues? Okay. And Jonathan sees David asking, what's going on with this whole Goliath fellow? And wait, there's a reward? What's going to be done for this guy? And he's making that question. His brother chews him out, and he says, what have I done now? And he just keeps moving on, which is a good thing to do when your brother's giving you a hard time. Just roll and keep moving on, which he does. And of course, we know the story. He takes on the giant. There's that stone. Down he goes, off with his head. And Jonathan is like, whoa, we are kindred spirits. And he takes a risk as he comes to David, and he takes off his robe and puts it on him. Divestiture is at the heart of friendship, an emptying. He didn't say, hey, I'd like to be your friend. He took off his robe, and then he takes off his tunic. divests himself of all the royal emblems that were attached to his person. It's just me here, not someone in authority. It's just me here. And then he gives him his bow, gives him his belt, gives him his sword. That's a risk. David could say, I don't need your stupid royal stuff. I'm good. I mean, totally could have been snubbed, but he wasn't. Now, I just kind of summarized the text, but let's go ahead and read the text. It's good to read the text. And we actually have several. We're going to toggle between three incidents, three snapshots of David and Jonathan's friendship. This is after David had finished talking with Saul. Goliath has fallen, head chopped off. David now is coming back to the lines. Jonathan, at that moment, became one in spirit with David, and he loved him as he loved himself. From that day, Saul kept David with him and did not let him return home to his family. So there's love there too. After David had finished talking with Saul, it's kind of a rewind. Jonathan became one in spirit with David, loved him as himself. Jonathan took off the robe he was wearing, gave it to David along with his tunic, even his sword, his bow, and his belt. Now we have to fast forward from there, probably a couple of years. What's happened in the meantime is David's had so much success, Saul gets jealous. We've been following the story here. But he starts eyeing David as a potential rival, this one that he's adopted as son. And he tries to pin him to a wall twice with a spear, which would just amplify David's daddy issues, I'm sure. Ultimately sends to have him killed in his bed. Escapes through a window with the help of his wife, Michal, and he's basically in hiding. Jonathan seeks him out. Jonathan, well, gosh, is he just a bit naive? Is he in denial? He's basically saying, oh, my dad doesn't have it in for you. David is saying, will you get real? And they meet out in the field, and he says, okay, look, we got this whole new moon celebration that's coming, and everyone's expected at the table, and Saul's going to be looking for me to fill my place. I'm not going to go. You cover for me. You say I have to go home or something. I'm going to stay here. You see what he says. If he responds this way, then okay, coast clear. Responds this way, you're going to know coast is not clear. If he loses his mind, you're going to know he's got it in for me. And as the thing unfolds, well, Saul, yes, he does lose his mind, loses all composure. He rebukes his son. He's vulgar. He's very rash with his son. And then he tries to pin his son to the wall when his son protests. So Jonathan, as the biblical text says beautifully with understatement, concluded, yes, my father has issues. And so then they go meet out in the field. And they had to rain signals through arrows being shot and one of the young servant boys going out and getting the arrows. And if Jonathan said it's beyond you or from this side, they just work out a secret code to the whole thing. And so they meet out in the field. And in 1 Samuel 20 and verse 17, Jonathan had David reaffirm his oath out of love for him because he loved him as he loved himself. And after the boy had gone, verse 41, David got up from the south side of the stone and bowed down before Jonathan 3 times with his face to the ground. And then they kissed each other. Okay, you need to be careful about trying that in our culture. We're not from France, and we're not from the Middle East. They were very physical in their affections. You're lucky to get a handshake that isn't either fish limp or bone crushing. There's a certain timing and sensitivity to the signals and body language of people. And generally, when somebody you meet for the first time, generally it's not that warm handshake and in close. Yeah, generally, just get a sense of things. In that culture, though, and for people who have pledged a covenant of loyalty to one another, blood brothers, as we would say, and they, as far as they know, this is the last time they're seeing each other, yes, that's a moment at which to kiss. And yes, it's cheek and cheek, okay? Not from France, cheek to cheek, yeah? And then they weep, and David weeps the loudest. Friends know how to have holy, non-toxic touch. And they know how to weep on each other's shoulder. Without words and platitudes, they know how to do this. They know how to be with each other in silence at the most important moments of life and just be in it with each other. And that's what they were. And so they kissed each other and they wept together, but David wept the most. Jonathan said to David, "Go in peace, for we have sworn friendship with each other in the name of the Lord, saying, the Lord is witness between you and me and between your descendants and my descendants forever." And then David left, and Jonathan went back to his town. That's a significant note. And it's so hard not to anticipate the truths. But notice the flow, the ebb and flow of friendship. There's a coming together, and then there's a going apart. Get used to that rhythm, okay? It's the nature of friendship. There's an ebb and there's a flow to it. David left, Jonathan went back to the town. Now, we toggle forth probably another 2 or 3 years. David has now been on the run from Saul for a prolonged period of time. 2 or 3 years to be on the run can seem like an eternity. Goodness, just 2 weeks on the run can seem like an eternity. But it's been 2 or 3 years. David stayed in the wilderness. This is chapter 23, verse 14. David stayed in the wilderness strongholds and in the hills of the desert of Ziph. Day after day, Saul searched for him, but God did not give David into his hands. While David was in Horesh in the desert of Ziph, he learned that Saul had come out to take his life. And Saul's son, Jonathan, went to David at Horesh and helped him find strength in God. Hebrew is very expressive, very literal, concrete. He strengthened his hand in God. "Don't be afraid," he said. "My father Saul will not lay a hand on you. You will be king over Israel, and I'll be second to you. Even my father Saul knows this." The two of them made a covenant before the Lord. Then Jonathan went home, but David returned, or remained in this case, in Horesh. So again, notice the rhythms. And this is God's word. I thought about calling this lesson the God space of friendship. But then it was like, oh my gosh, that is just far too pretentious. And that's what I was coming up with. There is a God space. There's a God space in friendship. But honestly, all I've got for you this morning is just some straight talk about friendship. Straight talk is hopefully not brutal, but it is direct. This is what you can be as friends. If you have somebody that you have to kind of maneuver carefully around them, and this will be on days, friends will have to do this with each other, but as a standard way of life, that friend, well, you don't really have a friendship. You have an acquaintance that it's one of those EGRs, an extra grace required person that you, with whom you cannot relax, with whom you cannot be yourself. Okay, and that's not a friend. Gosh, it's a really good way to find out if X, Y, or Z is a friend. Just be yourself. If they're still around afterwards, you know you have a friend. If not, okay, well, we just sorted that one out, didn't we? Straight talk about friends. 2 facts. We may have, fact number 1, we may have 1,000 friends on Facebook as of this morning. I have 1,067. Yeah, wow. Wow. That's a lot of avatars. But we're suffering an increasing famine of face-to-face friendships. I spent this week, part of this week anyway, actually I spent a lot of this week. It's like, God, I'm really trying to polish a nice speech on friendship, and I kept having opportunities and invitations and beckonings and summons for conversations and friends. And it's like, well, I can either say, I don't have time for you guys, or I can say, sounds like I just need to practice living what I'm going to be talking about. So, yeah, you're getting what you're getting here. But it was marvelous this week, sitting down with my friend John and hearing about where he's at in his life. It's been a while, the ebb and flow of friendship. It's been a while. It was marvelous to sit down, yes, with my friend Jill. We had a raucous fun time. just talking about, I don't know what, but it was awesome. Spending time with friends I'll be introducing later. I mean, the point is, friendship. Okay. We may have 1,000 friends on Facebook, yes, and that's good. Facebook is a marvelous tool. But the fact is, and this is what this book, The Village Effect by Susan Pinker, is not written from a Christian viewpoint, okay? So just be aware of that. But she's just looking at the facts, and she's researched them, and she's written a really rather informative, eye-opening book about her findings. Oh my gosh, there's this I'm saying gosh a lot, sorry. It just comes out. I wish I just would say God, because God is everywhere, and he's in all of this. My God, here is a marvelous quote from the book of George Burns. Happiness is having a large, loving, caring, close-knit family in another city. Yeah. So you know it's true. That's another fact of friendship coming up. Okay, as far as the need, if I need to demonstrate the need, okay, and the famine of face-to-face, the no-strings-attached Western ideal creates gaps in intimacy that, despite the miracle of Skype, are not being bridged by technology. In the United States, more than 62 million people, equal to the entire population of the United Kingdom, say they are socially isolated and unhappy about it. Now, there's a whole bunch of others that are quite happy to be alone. 62 million living alone and not happy, feeling socially isolated, not happy about it. More than half of them, 32 million, do live alone, the highest proportion in the nation's history. Indeed, the rate of Americans living alone has been rising every decade since the early 20th century. Whereas 1% of the American population lived alone in 1920, over 10% did in 2010. According to American Census data, which tracks an increase in solo living of more than 300% in the last 40 years. Many of those living solo are divorced or widowed seniors, while a quarter of American men over 75 now live alone. Fully half of all women of that age do, many of them having outlived their spouses. This is not just an American phenomenon. In Britain, a third of all adults now live alone, and a record number of Canadians, especially those over 65, are now on their own too. The uptick of solitary living means that in Canada, the United States, and every European Union country, greater swaths of the population are waking, eating, and sleeping without the in-the-flesh human contact. And while living alone doesn't necessarily mean that you're lonely, it does mean that, like it or not, you have less physical proximity to other human beings whom you care about and who have an interest in your survival. Fewer impromptu conversations, fewer shared puns and jokes, and of course, less physical contact. People who are solitary are deprived of the daily pats, hugs, eye contact that primates have been using to communicate. Again, this is somebody else's worldview here, right? For nearly 60 million years. Now, when you add in that evolutionary perspective, just for the number of 60 million years, the point is, long-standing, this is what we've needed to survive. And we have an increasing famine of this. Now, I don't mean to poke in the wound or to just point out the obvious that you might be starving at the moment, because a good number of you, the statistics hold, you're feeling socially isolated. So yes, that's the case. Yes. And fact number 2, we need friends. Friends help us to live longer and larger. All right, I want to take a moment. Gosh, how am I doing time-wise? Oh, this is going far too slow. Okay. Check the book out of the library and read the introduction. Story of John McLogan. He's musician, drummer, and he needed a kidney transplant. You know, he was 48. He needed a kidney transplant. And she goes through the odds of finding someone who will actually say, yes, I will donate a kidney for you. And he had 4. One was his ex-wife, but she'd wasted her body with drugs, didn't work. Another one went through, didn't work. Another one, sorry, not compatible. It ended up being a friend that he had in high school when they were 15 and just doing music riffs and telling jokes and probably smoking stuff. That friend stepped forward. And they, lose contact over the years, but that friend hears and he comes, the ebb and flow of friendship, and he comes and he gives them a kidney. And so the question being, how many people would be willing to give a kidney to you? To whom would you be willing to give a kidney? This is her conclusion. Face-to-face interaction does not just spur selfless acts like those of John's friends. It also affects how well we learn to read, how quickly we fight off infection, and ultimately how long we live. Less than 0.01% of the Western world's population needs a new kidney, but every one of us needs a tight knot of friends and family in our corner, and not just when the chips are down. If we don't interact regularly with people face to face, the odds are we won't live as long, remember information as well, or be as happy as we could have been. And what do I mean by regularly? Well, when my son was small and went to his first violin lesson, he asked his music teacher, an impish man from Belgrade. Everybody should have a violin teacher who's an impish man from Belgrade. Yeah, if the rumor was true, did he really have to practice every day? And crouching down to Eric's level and putting a slender hand to his chin, Dragan, an impish violin teacher from Belgrade named Dragan, considered the question, not every day, just every day you eat. All right. We need friendship. Help us live, to live longer, to live larger. And yet we have a famine of face-to-face relationships. We've got scriptures. We'll go through these rather quickly because I want to get to some of the straight talk here. Genesis 2:18, the Lord God said, it's not good that the man should be alone. Hebrew word for good is tov. Genesis 1, the first creation poem and account has tov, tov, tov. God sees that it's tov, tov, tov. It's tov me'od, very good. And then it's tov me'od me'od. It's really good. Second creation account, which is poetic in its own way, totally different flow, interesting contrast. And one of them is there's not a tov, 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 tov parade. It's just lo tov, not good. What's not good? That humanity is a solitary project is not good. You are not a solitary being. You need community. And he lets him discover it, creates all the animals, and he realizes this isn't going to work. I love dogs and cats, but it still is not quite on the level of what's needed here. And then, of course, we have him making a helpmeet for him, which is a strong ally who's in your face and with you at the same time. That's Ezer Kenegdo, helpmeet. Ecclesiastes 4, I turned my head and saw another wisp of smoke on its way to nothingness. A solitary person, completely alone, no children, no family, no friends, yet working obsessively late into the night, compulsively greedy for more and more. You just read the mail of every red-blooded American in our country. Never bothering to ask, why am I working like a dog? Never having any fun, and who cares? More smoke, a bad business. It's better to have a partner than go it alone. Share the work, share the wealth, and if one falls down, the other helps. But if there's no one to help, oi. Two in a bed warm each other. Alone, you shiver all night. By yourself, you're unprotected. With a friend, you can face the worst. Can you round up a third? A three-stranded rope isn't easily snapped. I want to add to Ecclesiastes, Ecclesiasticus, which was actually a part of Jewish and Christian reading, has been for centuries. Unknown to most of us Protestants, we just haven't gone there. But I've just been reading it aloud, and it's a kick. And a whole section on friendship. A faithful friend is a sure shelter. Whoever finds one has found a rare treasure. A faithful friend is beyond price. There's no measuring her worth. A faithful friend is the elixir of life. And so, yes, playing cards once a week or meeting friends every Wednesday night at Starbucks adds as many years to our lives as taking beta blockers or quitting a pack-a-day smoking habit. All right, that's village effect, okay? Okay, now let's come to some truths, okay? Just some truths. See the facts. We have a famine of face-to-face friendship, yet we need friends, all right? Just some truths about friendship. Friendships are hard. They involve pain and too frequently betrayal. Okay? Anyone disagree with that? Jesus had his Jonathan. He also had his Ahithophel. We're coming up to that story. Ahithophel walked on arm in arm with David. They told jokes. They talked about the day's news. They ate together. And when his son Absalom rose up, Ahithophel went with the son and advised his son towards the elimination of David. These are the words that David wrote. Psalm 55, 12 through 15. This isn't the neighborhood bully mocking me. I could take that. This isn't a foreign devil spitting invective. I could tune that out. It's you. We grew up together. You, my best friend. Those long hours of leisure as we walked arm in arm. God, a third party to our conversation. So here's the prayer. When you've been betrayed. Notice I didn't say if. You haven't been betrayed yet. And if you don't have friends, you can't be betrayed. That's called playing it safe. How's that working for you? When you are betrayed, here's your prayer. Courtesy of David. Haul my betrayers off alive to hell. Let them experience the horror. Let them feel, and I just emphasize the text a little bit, let them feel every desolate detail of a damned life. That is from the Bible. The Message. Okay. Amber got to say foreskin. I just got to say hell and damned. You will feel this. And here are words for it. Use them. Okay? Use them. Risk the friendships that will undoubtedly sometime, sooner or later, hasn't happened yet. Wait for it. Okay, it'll come. It'll come. Because David had his Jonathan, but he had his Ahithophel. Jesus had his Yochanan, his John, but he also had his Yehuda, his Judas. And they were all his friends. I believe on that night, John is sitting on the right, and Judas is sitting on the left, which is why they can have just as intimate a conversation as he was having with John, the disciple whom he loved, because Judas was the disciple that he loved too. And we just know the rest of the story, so we know to hiss when he walks into the room. Jesus wasn't hissing. But these are the words. These are the words. Ecclesiasticus. I might go just a bit long. Okay. If you've drawn a sword on your friend, don't despair. There's a way back. If you've opened your mouth against your friend, don't worry. There's hope. But insult, arrogance, betrayal of secrets, and a stab in the back, in these cases, any friend will run away. You might be able to get reconciliation, but you'll probably be loving each other from afar. That's another just straight talk about friendship. Just deal with it. It's reality. Keep well clear of your enemies and be wary of your friends. Wow. Okay. Next truth, all right? We just needed to acknowledge that here. I'm inviting you to find friends. I'm inviting you into pain, potentially, and eventually betrayal on some level with someone down the way. So I'm just reading the mail in advance, okay? I warned you. But you're also dying a whole lot sooner and living a whole lot less longer and larger without them. So it's worth the risk. So risk it. Friendship isn't just hard. This is the next truth. It's hard to find. Yeah, we'll develop that one as we go. The next truth, you are not meant to be friends with everyone. Let that one sink in for a minute, okay? You can only be friend to people you can represent on one hand, really, in a season, really. 1,067 friends, no, it's 1,067 faces electronically that I potentially can pursue friendship with, which is going to have to be face-to-face. All right, the one leads to the other, and that's the value of Facebook. The one can lead to the other. But if it's not leading to the other, it becomes a dead end for us. It's not going to prolong your life, and you're not going to live larger. In fact, you're going to have an increasing sense of aloneness. This is the experience. It's the Facebook paradox, social media paradox. You're not meant to be friends with everyone, so choose carefully, because whoever your friends are, you're going to become increasingly like them. You're going to even start looking like them if you are together long enough through seasons of life. You're going to have the same mannerisms. You're going to have about the same weight. If you're hanging out with friends that the waistline is beginning to expand, yours will too. She documents it, a whole chapter here. They can't even figure it out. Why is that? It just tends to be the way it is. So you're not meant to be friends with everyone, nor will you have close friends in every season of your life, especially when you most need them. Let me give you these words from 2 Timothy, Paul's words, final words to us. He says, do your best, writing to his son in the faith, Timothy, do your best to come to me quickly. Come to me quickly. For Demas, me, has deserted because he loved this present world and he's gone off to Thessalonica. Crescens to Galatia, Titus to Dalmatia. Only Luke is with me. Hear the lonely echo of those words. Only Luke is with me. Get Mark and bring him with you, because he completes me. He's useful to me. Friends are useful to each other. You just don't want to pick friends because you'll think they'll be useful to you. Those aren't friends. It's like you're pimping people for a different purpose. But we are useful to each other. That's what friends do. How can I help you? How can I be there for you? Alexander the metalworker did me a great deal of harm. The Lord will repay him for what he has done, and you should be on your guard against him too, because he did he strongly opposed our message, Paul says. At my first offense, no one came to my support. Everyone deserted me. May it not be held against them. He's moved beyond the Psalm 55 verbiage. May it not be held against them. But the Lord stood by me and strengthened me. You're going to be a good friend if you actually have a foundation where you kind of know who you are in the scheme of reality, and you're not desperately trying to suck it out of other human beings. This is straight talk. Okay, I'm just trying to be straight with you guys. Paul had found that. And this comes over time. We find that center, but we still need the people. Only Luke is with me. Get Mark, bring him. I need him. Oh, and don't forget the books, and especially the parchments. Books are silent friends who will never betray you. But we still need people to read them with. Okay. All right. Okay, I need to move. I've got 60 seconds. Okay, I want to go down to the next truth. Next truth would be friendships aren't found, they are groomed. Yeah, friends are hard to find, but really they're not found, they're groomed over decades. They're groomed over decades. That's actually verbiage, again, from Susan Pinker. I mean, for somebody who's secular, she's tracking better than a lot of us are. We should know this stuff. We should be able to write the book. Friendships aren't found, they're groomed over decades. Let me show you my friends. Okay? Yeah, there we go, my friends. Okay. I've known these people, a lot of them, for about 6 years now, after my wife, through the instigation of Liz Dunstan, got me to dance. She lied to me. Okay. She lied to me, Liz Dunstan. Played your poor, innocent husband. You played us against each other. If you go, John will go. Oh, John, if you go, Mike will go. Oh, my God. Shame. Okay. And I thank God for you. Scheme away, Liz Dunstan. Because I met these people. We don't just dance together all over the place. Pretty much like every night of the week that we possibly can. And take classes, and pretty much whenever we can possibly get away with it. We travel, we take an annual pilgrimage to Seattle. Like 72 hours of constant dancing until like 4 a.m. was, I think, the longest one. I made it till 4 a.m. And that was early Sunday morning, and I just slept. That was my Sabbath the next day. We got on a train, and we just decided, we're not going to just fly back. Let's get on a train, and we're going to go all the way down to Santa Barbara, and we'll sleep on a train, and then we'll fly back from Santa Barbara to Seattle, and then fly back home. These people, they drive me crazy. And this relationship's hard. But we do stuff together and we experience life. My life is larger. It's worth it. It's worth every last bit of it. Okay, I'm going to finish. John, thank you for your patience back there. Thank you all for your patience. Yeah, okay, I'm almost done. There is no instant guaranteed formula for finding a friend. These actually go together. This is good. Friends aren't found by stalking, but by serving. The number one way to serve is to listen. It's our cultural equivalent of a cup of cold water. Serve it regularly. Treat the people around you like they're kings, and you're a courtier. That's what St. Francis' approach was. The world is filled, it's a large courtyard filled with kings, and I'm but a courtier going through, and I'm offering cups of cold water, which is a listening ear, not so that I might find someone who might be a benefit to me, but because I found a center. We love because he first loved us. Number one way is listening. We listen our way into friendships. Friendships are birthed. Let all the aspects of that metaphor rest on you for a minute. They are birthed. There's gestation. There's growth. There's enlargement. There's expectation. There are contractions. There's literally a reshaping of your head. And then there's a birth, which is messy. Friendships are messy business, but it's life, and it's worth it. Birth in good conversations. And so learn to have good conversations. Get some books on how to talk to people if you're just sucking at it. It just begins by listening, though. And drawing people out, showing interest in them without waiting to share about your thing with them. Okay, last one. Friendships ebb and flow. They tend to be seasonal and occasional rather than constant. It's just the nature of them. Okay, I don't want to embarrass my friend, but his name rhymes with Chad, and he's sitting somewhere. Okay. Chad and I go way back. I came into the church and Chad had just been licensed, small groups, adult education, and gosh, I'm taking a little extra time, but just hang with me, okay? Just hang with me. I'm trusting God for this. And through the course of time, Chad moves to take over a school. And I end up with the stuff that Chad does. And so I replace, in a sense, my friend. I remember asking in those days, Chad, what do you think about Mike taking your place? And Chad's like, I'm doing a good thing. Chad and I didn't have a lot of he's got his stuff, I've got my stuff, occasional contact, but nothing in depth and such. And then things shift dramatically, and he's outside of this place, outside of these walls. And it's like, I don't like how that worked. I don't like how that went. This is not the way it should be. And so I just show up on his doorstep with a book. And conversation, intentionally sought out. And I had no expectation of a thing in return. But when I came down with cancer in 2012, I've got the image in my head. Can't get it out. I can't unsee it. As I'm recovering from upper intestinal surgery, because I see his face illuminated by his laptop through the night, because he stayed so my wife could go home. When I went through chemo, Chad picks me up and takes me to the whole introduction and overview, and Chad is the one sitting with me during infusions while they're poisoning me. He's there. Thank you. I wasn't even a woman that had breast cancer. He was there. Now, since he's been back here, ebb and flow. And that's okay. It's just the nature. It's the nature of life. But when that friend or that friend or that friend is in need, guess what gets cleared? It's my schedule. And that goes for that friend and that friend. You're all way too much for me. I can't keep up with you. Build a social network that goes deeper than a screen. Okay? And I'm done. I've gone 6 minutes over. Can we just stand and pray? Okay? Let's stand and pray. I don't know where that leaves you. It leaves me not wanting to do this again next service. God help me. God help you. God help us. Lord, I don't know where this leaves us, if this leaves us with just a mess of amplified need that we're aware of now more. Thank you, Pastor Mike. If this leads us, Lord, with apprehension towards future friendships, existing friendships, Lord, where I pray it leaves and leads us is into a hunger for more of this vital face-to-face ingredient that you've wired us for. Make us hungry and lead us to the table where we can serve a meal. Speaking kind of metaphorically, but it could be literal too. And show us how to build a network of true, deep, life-giving, pain-filled, hard, sweat-producing, tear-wringing, and yes, even the woes and throes of betrayal. Lead us there, and let us find the life that you intend. And let us not live in fear, but in hope and expectation. Give us the freedom to be present with some handful of people. And give us eyes to see, a heart that can receive, and most of all, God, ears that can hear. And we ask it through Christ. Amen. Amen. Okay, there you go. God bless you all. And get out of here. Got other people coming. Huh?